Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Rapunzel, and here's her story. Hi, Ollie. It's Rapunzel again. You'll recall the last two videos you published for me. Isolation narcissists want to hide you from the world, and there are no safety nets with narcissists, only traps. To recap in short, my narcissistic mother and enabling father homeschooled me and kept me enmeshed and infantilized all my life, and I was the golden child until they started prepping and I set my very first boundary. That's when they began scapegoating me and the rug got pulled out from under. Once I came to my senses about my mother, I made plans to move out. I have an update as well as a bit of an observation when it comes to my narcissistic mother. I'll admit the last two times I wrote you, I was still in denial that my mother was in fact a narcissist. After I wrote you last, and just a week before I was going to move out, it was December 23rd, 2016, 2 days before Christmas, and my mom started coming at me with a word salad. I was playing gray rock and trying to stay guarded, but then she started to talk terms I never heard her speak before, terms that made it sound like she felt contrition for her behavior. She told me she had gone to see a counselor, she wasn't lying, and she started telling me about the things they had talked about. She even told me that she's now recognized her controlling and manipulative behavior and how all the prepping business was her fault, and she will do whatever it takes to fix our relationship. I was floored and believed her. Yeah? Well, let's see if she tells anybody else this. Don't think she don't realize you're moving out, and this is just a tactic. Much like the borderline, we'll admit they have borderline personality disorder and look for sympathy on Facebook and on the internet. This is what your mother's doing. I was angry and I was still very mistrustful, but she was able to break down my walls enough to embrace me, and we wept together. I'll admit I kept thinking maybe I've been wrong about her the whole time. No, you haven't. The next day, it was as if the past year and a half hadn't happened. The sun felt brighter, a burden was lifted off my shoulders, but a small voice inside me told me not to trust it so easily. Her apology couldn't undo the years of damage or repair my trust in her from one day to the next, so I spent the whole morning in bed, day after Christmas, praying and pondering a way to test my mother's apology. You want to test your mother's apology? Tell her to admit it to other people. That's how you test her fucking apology. An apology is meaningless without allocution. For those of you who don't know what allocution is when you've been found guilty or you've pled guilty to a crime after sentencing, and you stand before the court and you admit to your crimes. It's called allocution. And the reason they do it is so you have closure. So there's no question over who did what and who's getting punished. That's why. That's something a narcissist will never do. It came to me. A lot of the most damaging words ever spoken to me were uttered in the living room. During those family meetings that lasted hours upon hours. My mother made me into a scapegoat, and I knew a step towards any kind of reconciliation would have to have my mom repeat what she told me in private, that she's sorry that she was manipulative and controlling to the rest of the family. I needed her to tell the truth. I needed her to tell the rest of the family who were witnesses and enablers of her abuse that she was wrong. If she couldn't do that, If she could do that, I would start trusting her again. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. I'm sure she's going to act like she don't know what the hell you're talking about, or turn it around, make you into the bad guy. That's what they do. So a day after Christmas, I asked her in private if she could do this for me. Suddenly, she took on a look of defensiveness and told me stutteringly that the rest of the family already knows what we talked about in private. Bullshit. That is not a good sign, obviously, since that meant she was triangulating and probably not telling them what she told me. But I maintained that if she wanted to repair our relationship, she needed to simply repeat what she told me in private to the rest of the family, as best she can, to help me trust her. Never gonna happen. Just a few days later, she spontaneously asked everyone if we could have a talk after dinner. We gathered in the living room to hear what she had to say. Almost immediately, she started to cry. She had retained nothing of what she had told me, regressing instead back to her old "woe is me, I don't know how to be a parent, I don't even remember half the things I said or did, and I don't know what to say" tactics. There you go. Bullying. After only a few minutes of this word salad, and she looked at me in the eye and asked, "What else do you want me to say?" I told you she was going to make you into the bad guy. Told you. This made me look like the villain once again, with a knife to her back. This complete turning of the tables was either genius manipulation or just a complete tailspin, abort mission, because she couldn't face the horror of her hypocrisy and the abusive actions twice. No, she set you up. It's the latter. No, I'm sorry. It was the former. It's the manipulation. I felt so betrayed from this interaction, and when she fell silent, I was just speechless. My dad flew to my mom's side and started making excuses for her, telling everyone we should forgive each other. She was heralded as the eternal victim, and I was erased. When I retreated back to my room, I realized how bamboozled I had been. She clearly only came to me with an apology and with some of the truth to manipulate me, because she knew I was moving away in less than a week. She was losing control, and her table-turning performance was damage control. She wouldn't lose my enabling father, golden child brother, and forgotten brother. I told myself at least it pulled the curtain back on her true nature before I skedaddled out of there. The move itself was full of my mom's most abusive, covert manipulations, telling me she's going to die soon, that she accepts none of her children love her, that I am going to be sorry once I am a mother and know how difficult it is, and that she already misses me and how hard this is for her. My enabling father caught a glimpse of one of my medical records for the university I'm attending and came to me with sincere concern over the fact I had written depression, anxiety, CPTSD under my pre-existing conditions. He's not concerned. His only concern is that he's going to be exposed for causing those conditions. That's his only concern. That sincere concern did not last very long, because in all the 6 months I've been out on my own, he has not once called me up or mentioned it to me to see if I'm legitimately okay. He's a doctor, for crying out loud, yet he has no true concern for his own daughter's mental health. Not as long as it implies there is something wrong with my mother or him. Fast forward to June 2017, I've been low contact, and I could say, you should be no contact, to be honest with you. I've been low contact, and I could say that my mom has been playing the nice card for a solid 6 months now, buying me gifts, trying to send me money, and yes, I took your advice and cut financial ties with them, and I am so happy I did. Every turn, I haven't allowed her gifts or manipulations to work on me. I gave her a few chances to be a normal mother and take me out shopping for apartment things, and I regret it. It was so fake, and we never addressed the elephant in the room. Somehow in the middle of this month, I reached the crossroads. I suddenly realized that my mental health was in such decline, that I was so low and in such despair over these issues with my mother and the hopeless nature of it all, that I had a choice to make. Interacting with my mom in any capacity was becoming poisonous to me. It was affecting my mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. At first, I cried for hours and begged God not to make this decision. But then I saw how the path of contact was like a desert with brambles and thorn bushes and no water in sight. The path of no contact was like a dark, stormy path cutting through a forest. With life at the end of the tunnel, I have begun to accept the inevitable, which is that no contact is the only way I could survive. Yes, it became clear to me that this was a matter of survival. I found confirmation for this decision, and I have felt more and more at peace and determination of what I'm about to do. You know, once you realize your mother was just admitting to this shit as a manipulation, that should have been your sign from God. Showed it to you then. But you need sometimes no contact or even limited contact to help you see it all. That was a few weeks ago, beginning of June. I was planning to go no contact by this week, end of June. But lo and behold, my narc mother decided to volunteer for a summer camp that I was hired for. What? They always do this. They will insert themselves into your life. You need to call. Remember the money I didn't accept from my parents? Well, I was going to make that up by working at this summer camp for 5 days. It's in the middle of July, right after my birthday. When I found out my mother decided to volunteer for this camp that I'm going to be at, I was pissed. I didn't want her to cheat me out of a well-paying job that I enjoy and that I need, so I am planning to go, and planning to go no contact right after that. Something in me wondered if my narc mother has some kind of sixth sense to when I'm about to pull further away. I kept this in the back of my mind as I sought further therapy and kept silent about my plans to my family. Well, your family is preppers. So if you brought a laptop or a computer or something from your house, there's a good chance there's a keystroker on it. They do have a sixth sense to know when you're pulling away. They always do. They know when to show up. But I'm going to ask you this. Did you call the camp and let them know not to hire this woman, that this woman's there just to cause problems? That you want no contact? You should call the camp, tell them, I have no contact with this woman. She's here to cause problems. And that should, if you're the employee and she's the volunteer, that should end it right there. If it doesn't, then you can't work there. You can't show up there and put your... You can't. You're giving your mother what she wants. What was the second video I made for you? There are no safety nets with the narcissist, only traps. This is another trap. So either you are going to disassemble the trap before you walk into it, or you're not going to walk. Don't tell me there's not another job you can find to make up for this. There has to be. You're walking into another safety net, which is another trap. Don't do it. You're the employee. She's the volunteer. Tell them, like, look, I can't work here if she's going to volunteer here. It's that bad. It's going to cause a problem. And if that's a problem, you got to work somewhere else. But you cannot work there. This was last week, Tuesday. I got a text from my mother asking me how I'm doing, why she hasn't heard from me in a while, and if she said something wrong. I'm just shaking my head and was going to respond to her text, but then I decided to send her this. Do you truly want to know how I've been all these months? So I thought you were supposed to work towards helping me trust you again. Telling me you have no clue as to why I might be distancing myself from you is a big indicator that you haven't been trying at all. And I have done everything in my power to make things right between us. Gifts and sweet talk don't heal wounds. Honesty does. And you haven't been honest with yourself. It was pretty blunt and pretty gutsy because I usually don't respond to her, but I had to call her out. I was not responding in the hopes that she'll see the light. And sure enough, her next response was long and full of gaslighting and manipulations that make it sound like she's been nothing but sincere and nice. She told me I don't have any anger or issues against you. That one struck out to me. Now I know why she made a point of that. You see, this last weekend I took the opportunity to get the rest of my things back from the house while my family was out of town. They didn't see it coming. I took several trips to get my old artwork, the rest of my clothing, and childhood possessions out of there. When they got back from out of town, they must have been shocked to see my bedroom completely empty. Now I have no reason to come back home to them. Anyways, as I was getting my things, I came across a note at my mother's bedside that simply read, "When Parents Hurt." I Googled it on my phone, and a book on Amazon popped up. It's a book all about validating the experience of a hurting parent, heartbroken over their, and I quote, troubled, angry, distant child who is either estranged or no contact from their parent, who is hardly ever to blame. I let my curiosity get the better of me, and I read excerpts of the book. It's the book literally written by a narc themselves, because it talks about how some children by nature are easier to love, how it's understandable to lavish love and attention on a child who is free with their affections towards a love-starved parent, and harder to love a child that is cold, distant, and inconsolable. Like I said, without the allocution, the apology is meaningless. Otherwise, they do what the borderlines do and use it as a weapon against you. So now they got these books that basically gives them their talking points of why they're not shitty parents. As I'm about to go no contact, understanding that it is about my healing and not about punishing or hurting the narcissist, it's nevertheless flabbergasted me that my mother could be sensing the inevitable doom looming at our doorsteps, and yet she does nothing to change or alter the situation. You know, I gotta say, Rapunzel, I think you are still holding out hope that this woman is going to change, and she's never gonna do it. You need to just accept this is what they are. She has not gone to therapy and would rather vilify her daughter than to own up to her own mistakes for real. But what more did I expect from a narcissistic mother? Why would I expect her to take the blame off me, the scapegoat, and put it back on herself? Whatever glimmer of truth or accountability I saw in her during Christmas time was a stealthy manipulation and proof that the narcissist knows they are wrong. They're just too self-absorbed to own up to it or allow their illusion to crumble. I do have one question for you, Ollie. I know you talked about no need to notify the narcissist you're going no contact. My parents don't currently have an address, thank God, but it wouldn't take long to find me. They've been to my apartment once before, my mistake. I've spoken with some people who compose a no contact letter. For some reason, though, I have the desire to do it face to face. Why? Your mother came to you and admitted all this shit to you. She knows why. Well, what are you going to write? Listen, you've already been proven your mother knows why you're no contact. This is why there's no reason, and she's already proven it by telling you everything you already knew as a child. She knows. She knows when you're pulling away. So why do you think you need to tell her you're doing it? She knows you're going to do it before you do it. And she knows why. Because she already came to you when you were going to move out with the exact reasons why, taking all the blame onto herself in private. But then when you want her to allocute and admit it publicly, she goes right back to the same fucking tactics. And you're going to sit there and say, I got to tell her why I'm going no contact? She knows why. The whole point of this is her knowing why. Stop engaging. You have to stop engaging. At some point, you just have to stop engaging, and you have to accept the fact that this is who they are. For some reason, though, I have this desire to do it face to face. It's not going to turn. It doesn't turn out how you want it to ever face to face. I'm wondering why I have the desire to see their faces and their honest reactions to the news. Because you want to hurt them and you want to see it, but it never works out the way you want it. It doesn't. I'm not a narcissist, so it couldn't be for negative supply. I suppose it's the faintest hope. I don't know. It's foolishness, isn't it? And it's probably dangerous. If I did do it in person, I'd be at a park or a public place. A part of me wants to have that face-to-face confrontation. A part of me is scared that they would manipulate me and that I'll regret it, and if it turns into a blowout. Of course it's going to turn into a blowout. Of course they're going to manipulate you. Why are you going to put yourself into the same hours-long trial you did your whole life, and you think that's going to turn out any different? Look at how it turned out when you tried to get your mother to allocute after she admitted to you in private. How did that turn out? Why do you think this would turn out any different? They've already proven to you they know why you don't want to talk to them. Your father, too, when he read your conditions and then didn't follow up on it because it was all about it coming back on him. So what exactly do you think you need to explain to these people? You just want to say it in the hopes that it works, that it breaks, and it's not. It's just not. You gotta come to your senses with this. And lastly, I plan on talking to my brothers one-on-one before I notify my parents of my decision. My golden child brother needs to know of my boundary, though I am 99% sure he's going to side with them. And I will tell him then and there that I cannot be in contact with him either. As for my youngest brother, I think he might understand that I have to have a relationship with him separate from that of my parents. He has a girlfriend who's more independent than my golden child brother. This brother is the lost child. I have a sense he will either understand or come to understand where I am coming from. But I'm also not dumb enough to pretend he is still not under the illusion that my parents are essentially good. He still appeases them with his silence. Then it's not worth talking to either one of those two. If they give a fuck, they'll come and ask you. But that's why we have to go no contact, because it's apparent we've been alone our whole lives. Where have they been? Have they been around in your life the last 6 months? If the answer is no, what are you going to tell them for? They're just as part of the bigger problem as your parents. They all have to go. So my second question is how to prepare yourself for talking to that golden child brother and the lost child brother. And if you have any tips for getting at least the more independent one to see the truth. I feel that my golden child... Why wouldn't he already know the truth? He sees the truth, he just doesn't want to admit it. Neither one of them do. I feel that my golden child brother is lost, and however much it grieves me, if I have to, I will cut off contact with my younger brother if he becomes a point of triangulation. I will make that clear to him that I cannot afford to do that. Thanks so much for your help, Ali. You don't know how much your advice has meant to me. You're right. In most cases, no contact is inevitable. It has been so difficult, but I'm glad that I broke away. Blessings, Rapunzel. Well, look, as far as your brothers would go, I wouldn't expect it to go anywhere with them either. Because if they're still sitting there and that, you can't convince your brothers of the enablers of anything. They have to see it for themselves. You trying to convince them of anything is going to be your parents being able to turn it against you that you're trying to turn them against them. It doesn't work. If they give a shit about you, cut them all. If you stop, they'll call you. If they care at all. Then you can have the conversation with them. But something tells me you're not going to hear from either one of them. Other than to attack you or guilt you. So you already had all the answers right in front of you. I mean, there's no reason to notify them of anything. Your mother knows why you went no. They all know why you go no contact. And having to explain it to them now is ridiculous. You are only going to draw yourself into those hours-long discussions that you've hated your whole life. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your contribution and your story. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comments section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video for someone who can't afford it, or just sponsor the channel in general, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. And if you're still unsure, wait for the instructional video link to pop up on the screen at the end of this video to walk you through all that. Please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance. Bye.